Hello, my name is Jordan Ktori and today I'm going to talk to you about forecasting for champagne sales. As you can see from the graph, champagne sales between the years of 2009 to 2011 gradually increased. However, since then, between the years of 2011 and 2013, there has been a very slow and gradual decrease in their sales. In contrast to this, Prosecco has seen a huge increase in their sales in 2013. At this point, you may be wondering why it is so important for businesses to use forecasting. Well, market research from Mintel shows a huge drop in sales figures between 2008 and 2012. This drop is estimated to be at a whopping £201 million, and I'm sure that the champagne industry would have altered their plans if they knew this drop in sales was imminent. So what is forecasting, and how could it benefit the champagne industry? Well, firstly, forecasting is the analysis of previous data and trends in an attempt to predict future outcomes. This is very relevant to the champagne production, as they will want to be aware of the peak times for champagne consumption, for example Christmas and New Year, as well as the lows, in order to optimise the timing of discounts and promotions. As you may know, forecasting is a tool which is utilised in many areas of business, including many champagne companies. As you can see, Moet and Chandon CEO Daniel Lalonde is already discussing his 2014 forecast in this slide, as well as the issue of storage for inventory, which I will go on to talk to in more detail a little bit later on. It is worth remembering that forecasting is one of the most utilised tools within the business world, and every major organisation will have some sort of team in place to prepare the company for what the future holds. On the screen now is an example of a problem within forecasting that you may encounter. This particular problem links in with moving averages. However, there are many different forecasts which fall under different categories. There are three. The first is the qualitative models. These contain the Delphi method, the jury of executive opinion, Salesforce composite, and consumer market survey. The second is the time series method. This also contains four. The moving averages, exponential smoothing, trend projections, and decomposition. The last one is causal methods, which includes regression analysis and multiple regression. Depending on your data and the outcome you desire, different models are suited to certain tables of data. I am now going to look at a case study which shows how forecasting has greatly helped Tesco's in boosting their profits. This case study is going to be looking at how one executive from Tesco Direct managed to save a company almost £16 million in 1 year. In the last 5 years, the retail giant Tesco's has been applying sophisticated analysis to its supply chain data, and by identifying opportunities to cut waste, optimise promotions, and to match stock to fluctuations in demand, Tesco's supply function has saved many millions of pounds. As with anything, forecasting has its benefits as well as its limitations, which I am now going to talk about for the next few minutes in the following slides. Let's start with the benefits. Firstly, any business that has a successful sales division will have undoubtedly touched upon forecasting at some point, or even have its own sector dedicated to forecasting future outcomes. The first benefit of forecasting is that it gives greater indication as to what trends may be upcoming. This allows assumptions to be made regarding what their target market want. The second benefit is that it allows businesses to see which products are in demand and what is not selling as well. From this, specific attention is paid towards popular products, whilst at the same time, storage space can be cleared of products which aren't as desirable. The third benefit is one that saves time and money being invested into new ventures which are forecasted to fail. It also keeps business plans specific and businesses focused on their mission statement. The fourth and final benefit is relevant to larger organisations which offer shareholders the option to buy into their company. From forecasts, shareholders can see whether it is a viable option for them to invest in a particular business, meaning that in some cases, forecasted figures can give an indication of market share as well as the strength of the business at a certain period of time. Moving on to limitations now. The first drawback of forecasting is that in general it is quantitative and lacks a qualitative aspect. As well as this, forecasting only takes into account previous data, which means that any slight change in future trends will make the forecast invalid, meaning unpredictable events can stop businesses from reaching their targets which they may have set previously. The second limitation is that forecasting has no way of taking external factors into account. For example, competitor pricing and new entries into the market are often single-handedly responsible for a drop in sales figures for a particular business. A great example of this is shown in the second slide, which shows a huge rise in sales of Prosecco and a slow drop in sales for champagne in 2013. When analysed, you will learn that Prosecco is generally a lot cheaper, and in our current economic climate, the purchase of champagne is not a necessity. The third and final limitation I'm going to discuss today is that forecasting can often lack precision when carried out by smaller organisations. This can have a huge effect on the final figures, which is why many businesses opt for forecasting as well as an expert opinion to ensure that they are not too far out in their estimations. This hopefully will give them an advantage when they're preparing for the future. To conclude this presentation, let's recap what we have talked about. Firstly, we discussed what forecasting is in relation to previous trends and data, which led us on to then talk about why forecasting is important. And as an example, we now know that the champagne industry dropped its sales figures by £201 million between 2008 and 2012. We then discussed who uses forecasting within their day-to-day business, and from there, two examples of forecasting were provided. One numerical problem, accompanied by a real-life case study on Tesco. And finally, the limitations and benefits were discussed in detail, as well as how they affect the organisation in the long run. Thank you very much for listening.